Hi, I'm Brian Mullahy, woodworker, furniture maker. The areas of woodworking that I've done is in furniture making, which includes any piece of freestanding furniture. I've done cabinet working, which both as furniture and as in architectural woodwork, where it's built in and often trimmed off with architectural elements. Most of the shop work I do here is furniture work, so that's like the job that I just finished with the tables and 6 chairs with the walnut table, flitch top, which I'm doing for a client who first got in contact with me and wanted a pedestal to hold a bronze bust sculpture of a tiger. And he was very pleased with that, and he started talking to me about that he needed a table and chairs. He started throwing things at me of what he liked, simplicity but modern in look, and he liked walnut, so he pursued what he wanted: a flitch cut top table, which is a slab of wood, various cuts that run through crotches of the branches and so forth, so you get very interesting grain. We were able to get a piece that was out of a piece approximately 8 feet long, about 39 inches at its narrowest, and just about 48 at its width. And then chairs. I came up with a design based on things that he had looked at and was pleasing to his taste. My approach is to do rough cutting of lumber to match parts, in this case chair parts. Cut the pieces out of rough walnut. I started with 6/4 stock. Cut parts up and started the process of milling the lumber, preparing it to making parts, making the chair parts, and the legs and structures for the table. The top was fun work because it had to all be done by hand. When you work with planks, you join them together to make a big surface, and you can true a plank and through with joiners and thickness planers to get your true flat board, square edge, ready for the next true flat board, square edge. It took a good day and a half to flatten that single board for that top. Started over 2 inches. Once I got it flattened, it came down to about 1 inch and 11/16. This is a huge board with crotches cut through it where things, grain and branches were coming this way, and interweaving grain that is not on the nice plain sliced of the plank. So I had a lot of work to get that flat. And see, when I flattened it, this was the bottom side, and the bottom side was this way. So when I flattened it, it was all the edges that came down on this side, and it was the center that came down on the other side. With the change of temperature and so forth, I knew there was a possibility it could have a little movement, and it did. But of course, it's going to be bolted down to the base, which is the stretchers. Should keep it right where it's going to be. And I just clamp that, and guess what? It's straight. So then, of course, with chair work, I had to do all that. I had to make some templates for shape, get all the legs the same size, stretchers, so forth. And the back of the chair was a piece that I had to laminate. I book matched veneers. It was 6/4 stock, and I was able to slice, instead of having 1.5 inches thick by 8 inches, I got myself 4 approximately 1/4 inch slices on my bandsaw, 1/4 inch by 1/8 inch wide. Then I planed them in the thickness planer very carefully, because it's thin stock. I have a small thickness planer that takes it a little easier, and carefully brought it down to about 3/16, and then because I took 4 slices out of the board, I had 4 matching grains. And if you open them up, as you slice the board, you open them up, you get your book match, just like you're opening your hand, you got mirror image. So the 4 slices out of one section of board, I was able to open 2 up where the grain matched, so that was to go front and back for the back of the chair, which was to be a curved panel. So I had to make a form to the curve that I wanted between the upper posts of the rear legs where the back panel of the chair is. Nice curve. And real veneer, which I put on some ply cores, what's called wiggle board, and some 1/8 inch plywood. And then with the walnut on either side, and laminate that to my curve form. Lots of clamp work. It was just a gentle curve, and it was fine. And I had plenty of thickness to get that perfectly curved in the curve I wanted afterwards, after hand working the panel. But that had to be done because you can't put solid wood across vertically, but you would have to deal with the expansion and contraction, which would want to take the upper posts of the rear legs and move them back and forth. But the stretcher across the seat in the back doesn't want it to move, so you had a conflict in direction. They're all joined with mortise and tenon. The seats have a little carving. They're carved out with a little hollow coming across the seat and around the back that I shaped in the rough with a what they call a box scraper or box plane. It's actually a plane. That took a bit of work. That was a bit of sculpting the seat out. The panels, all the curb panels, had to be made and then cut to the size. They had to match the stretcher below it, because the rear legs, back panel, and the seat stretcher, that comes together as one. And then front legs with its stretcher was the other. After those two, then you want to do the front section, which is now glued as one piece, and the back, and put the stretchers between them, front to back, and clamp them up. And then later on, of course, corner blocks added strength to the joint of the leg joints into the stretchers, but also gives a place to bore a hole oversized so you can screw down from underneath the chair seat, and oversized hole to give it a little room for expansion, because the chair seat is solid, but it just sits on the frame, so it has the room to move back and forth. It's got a little space for expansion on where the seat goes through the rear legs onto this rear stretcher. A lot of sanding on those chairs, and cutting edges, sanding edges, and shaping the little detail, and maintaining the curves, and doing that in all in procedure and order, and getting it ready for a finish. The finishing process, as I used to hear as a young man, it's all how you prepare the wood before you put any finish on it. That's the most important thing, and it's true. So you prepare the wood as best you can with the sanding and so forth, and there's a lot of work on those chairs, every edge, and getting it ready to apply a finish. In this case, I sprayed a pre-catalyzed lacquer finish on it. Generally, I spray a thin coat first, so it absorbs in as much as possible, and it's also light. It sands easy for between coats I sand with a 320, and that's pretty much throughout. And in this case, we're using a satin gloss. I think the client was he was concerned about glare, because I've been to his place for delivering the pedestal, and he has a place where a lot of light can come in the apartment. He didn't want a bright finish where it might blind you. So we're doing a soft satin finish, which is nicer with the walnut too. Also because of the design, simple style of the table and chairs. High gloss often is very formal and ornate, you know. I like doing it, but not for this. You want enough that's tabletop to be durable and a nice even sheen. This will probably rub down a bit too, so with a little wax and quadruple knot wool. It's always a mixed feeling. The hardest part is delivery. Oftentimes it's too soon. It'd be nice if I could hold on to some pieces for a little longer than I do, but this is nice work, and this was a nice job. All right. That's just dust. Gosh, it scares the hell out of me now. I just don't. The whole thing at the end, you know. I don't want to have to do any touch-up on the job site. So I want to make sure everything is packaged nice and everything. So I just see a little dust, just from, which you can't help in the shop. What's that, a scratch? Yes, I'd be glad to make anyone a lovely table, chairs, or other furniture. I've done quite a variety of woodwork, and I'm available.